What's up, my bros? What's up? What's up, my fellow hodlers? What's up, bro? Dudes and dudettes. Do they say dudes? Is that a thing that they say? Or is it just bro? What's up, bro? I'm an associate member of T3 Trading Group, which is an SEC registered broker-dealer and member of FINRA-SIPC. All of my trades are placed through T3 Trading Group. You should carefully consider whether trading is suitable for you in light of your own financial condition. Position update disclosure. I am long MP. I'm out of Amazon. I'm long MP. Why would you be long Amazon when you could be long IBIT or MSTR or BMNR? The future. So that's what I'm long now, and I'm no longer long Amazon. We're waiting on NVIDIA, but NVIDIA's a sideshow. Have you guys heard about staking? Have you guys heard about the blockchain? You heard about the returns you can get, the cash returns? If you just throw your crypto out up there and they just start giving you percentages. Oh yeah. Yeah, man. Fiat? I don't want that. Only buying my pizza in Bitcoin now. It's the only way. Yo, you want to give me money, bro? Not Venmo? I don't want those dollars. Gotta get my cold storage going on. Can't have these quantum computers hacking the blockchain if I got the cold storage. Yeah. You just... Real gold? Forget that, man. I don't want real gold. I want digital gold. So you just gotta buy the dip, Bill. You just don't get it, Bill. You just don't get it.
Bill.
You don't get it, Bill K. You think you know, but you don't know. Oh man. Alright. We're waiting on NVIDIA. NVIDIA should be out in like 7 minutes. Honestly, if I'm gonna be long Bitcoin, I gotta participate in the memes. So while I got this trade on, you should expect a lot of memes in the VTF, and then quickly they'll fade. Spies here up 0.4% into the NVIDIA print. Qs are up 0.6. IWM was flat on the day. TLT was down. Bitcoin is down 3.5%. MSTR is down 8%. Ethereum's down 6%. I should have bought Ethereum too. And Solana's down 5.5%. So we are waiting here on NVIDIA, but turning things over to the charts, a little bit of a rest day here for the market to help satisfy some of this extension that we've had. I think that what happens with NVIDIA is going to dictate the bullishness or bearishness of this market going forward. I honestly think that NVIDIA is going to end up being a non-event, but we'll see what happens. It's obviously the most important company in the world, and I would argue that really the entirety of the U.S. economy is resting on the shoulders of NVIDIA. So if it were to be a disaster, which is not my expectation, it could be a big problem if it causes us to start to lose the stock market because we're losing the AI trade and therefore the thing that's been propping the economy up. Trump definitely said something I agree with today about the stock market being up, helping the economy. He's 100% correct on that one. But if you lose the stock market because you lose the AI trade, you got big problems because otherwise the economy, as we know, is not really doing very well. So we'll see what happens in just a few minutes, but SPYs are just kind of continuing to digest from some of that downside extension. Time, I would argue, is technically bearish right now more than bullish, and this market is still kind of neutral to neutral bearish depending on which index that you're looking at. So there's not really too much of an update there. Some of this crypto stuff, I did buy it. I mean, it's just deep in the hole. I don't have big positions on this stuff. I've got small positions, and I'm just looking for a few bucks, cash. Uh, just trying to get a bounce back in IBIT to 53 bucks. If I get it, I'll be out. Just looking for MSTR back to 200 bucks. If I get it, I'll be out. BMNR, same deal. Not looking for a lot on that. It was interesting how strong Ethereum was into the close, and that this BMNR stayed super weak. It made me think I bought the wrong thing. I probably should have just bought Ethereum and not this BMNR. But BMNR into the 200-day here, also pretty downside extended. I'm also not looking for a lot on this. Move back to 32 bucks, something like that. I'm not even looking for moves all the way back to the 80 MA on the daily chart for these things. So being real small and conservative, just some kind of cash flow trades to make a few bucks, and we'll see how they play out. Like I have enough on. I'll make a few dollars if they get to my targets, and but I'll also add if they were to gap down tomorrow or to continue to trade lower and become more extended until we get a little bit of a bounce back. So that is pretty much that as far as crypto goes. As far as individual trading goes, on my day trading stuff today, I definitely did not do as well as I have the last week or so. I feel like my day trading has been super on point, and today it was a little bit off. This first hour and a half of the trading session was really difficult, I thought, just with the degree and the speed to which we went up, just to completely round all the way back down like that. I found myself shorting some things way too early, enduring some pain, having to battle my way out of those positions, and then actually flipping long at a certain point with like the TQQQ and being too early on that as well, and having to endure some pain and manage the position and trade around it and stuff. And at the end of the day, I did finish positive on my day trading, but the risk reward really wasn't worth it today. I lost a little bit of money on Apple short. I lost a little bit of money on Nvidia short. I was like flat green. No, I was a little green in Meta. A little bit green on the Google short, which is more like a scalp. And then the Qs, I ended up being positive in TQQQ, but not by anywhere near the amount that is justified based on how much I was down in it in a certain point. So it just kind of is what it is. Amazon was my best, which I swung some Amazon yesterday. I got out of it fully when we were doing the morning meeting, or right after I ended the morning meeting, I think. And then I rebought the dip on this into that 220 area and below it. So this one ended up actually being my best on an intraday basis, and that was on the long side. So, just some quick day trades today, which is, I've been doing a lot more of that over the course of the last week or so, as I've been waiting to have more conviction on the bigger picture, because I still think we're in a tricky spot with this big picture. Seeing some selling coming in from CTAs now in any time frame, but if it's a flat market, it's really not too bad. You still got the corporate buyback bid, ball control somewhere in the middle. It could be a buyer, it could be a seller. So the big picture of this market, I still think, in terms of both flow of funds and technicals, are very neutral, and therefore I'm day trading a little bit more, hitting some singles and doubles, and not really trying to marry any new positions. Oh, the other one was MP. MP was actually really good for me today. Forgot about that. It's my second best name of the day. Had some from pre-market on the news and the upgrade. They downticked it really hard from that extension in the beginning, which I bought that move and then caught this up move. So that was pretty good. And I'm swinging a little bit of that MP also. Nice little breakout on the daily chart. Good technicals. So let's see what happens here with Nvidia. We are waiting on Nvidia. Should be out any moment. Should be out in like 30 seconds. So anyway, that's the super quick recap of the day while we wait for Nvidia. We got 15 seconds. Where to buy? I'm not even sure what the measured move is on Nvidia. I'm really not planning on trading this one, so I didn't even look at it. 13-ish, 12:30. It's like what, 173. And we're upticking. Nvidia moving up. Nvidia is out. It's moving up. Revenue beats by a couple billion. Here we go. Here's the guidance. Fourth quarter revenue expectations are a solid beat, 63.7 to 66.3 billion versus 62 billion estimate, basically. So it's a solid beat, but I don't think that these numbers are enough to get you up to the upside measured move of 200, to be honest. Third quarter data set and revenue is a beat. My crypto stuff is bouncing here a little bit. I just got filled on the offer for MSTR, BMNR off this NVIDIA move. So looks like it's a pretty good report. It should be up on that. I don't know if it's so good that it gets it up to 200 bucks. I sold more IBIT. But it's enough to make it so that this market is not going to have impending doom, I think. Fourth quarter revenue 65. They see fourth quarter revenue 65 billion plus or minus 2% versus estimates of 62. I just sold some more BMNR. See what happens with this NVIDIA into 195 here. I printed it like butter. There was no major selling coming in there, and now there's a buyer at 195 on the tape. 195 on the bid. They broke it. They hit it hard and broke it. You had an instant drop of $1 on that break. See fourth quarter adjusted operating expenses higher than expectations. Yeah, that up move was kind of slow, Pat. I agree. That's why I don't. That's part of why I'm thinking this is not getting up to that 200. It was like a heavy upside move here. This 195 is establishing itself as moderately important, and the buyer is back. Just got filled more MSTR on the offer. It broke. 195 buyer broke. Blackwell Ultra is now our leading architecture. Gaming revenue up on continued demand for Blackwell. H20 sales significant in the third quarter. That's a good headline. But I don't love how this thing is trading. I thought about shorting that 195 buyer, honestly, but I didn't touch it. So NVIDIA dropping back down a few bucks here. Again, good report. Good report. So we should be able to hold in, I think, on this. But I don't think that this is going to be enough to really accelerate us back to new all-time highs in NVIDIA, personally. Pat's got some short at 193 versus 195. Yeah, I like it. 192 selling now. I broke. Yeah. I think this is kind of what we were expecting from NVIDIA, you know, within the range of that implied move from the options market. 192 is buying a little bit. Broke. Can you put this on here because I don't have a position. Nice paid trade, Pat. Back up to 192. Patty Ice. Patty Bills. Patty Diamond Hands. 192 sound a little bit. 88 cents might have sold a little bit. 70 cents just sold. So there might be 18 cents. There might be a seller stepping down a little bit, but it broke. That broke. Blackwell sales are off the charts, and cloud GPUs are sold out. Compute demand keeps accelerating and compounding across training and inference, each growing exponentially. We've entered the virtuous cycle of AI. The AI ecosystem is scaling fast, with more new foundation model makers, more AI startups across more industries and more countries. AI is going everywhere, doing everything all at once. Let's go. The hype is real as the stock ticks down. Ticks down to 190. See if that 190 tries to buy. AI's going everywhere, doing everything all at once. Come on, John. Everything, everywhere, all at once. Hell yeah. Hell yeah, buddy. I don't really have anything else to say about this. What are these other stocks doing? Q's up. Q's are up a little bit. Q's seem like they're up too much, honestly, for the NVIDIA move, to me. Tesla's up. Google's up. Amazon's up. Apple's not really up. ABGO is up. ARM is up. There's some CI's up pretty big. AMD moving higher. So everything's moving up. I almost feel like these other stocks I'm looking at are trading better than they should off of NVIDIA just being up a few dollars. All right, so this is pretty range bound for the moment. We'll keep an eye on it. I kind of already did an overview, like a very quick one in just 10 minutes of the market and what I traded. Yeah, I also still think that Palantir is trash. Palantir has been trading really, really badly for quite some time now. For months, in my opinion. I know it had this one failed breakout into the earnings report, but ever since then, even before then and after then, it's been trading really bad, and that's then became a failed breakout higher, leading to a down move, and now it's holding below support. So I think the Palantir looks pretty bad. Inside and down, relative weakness. Yeah, 200 days is around 140, and that's all. That's about my target right now is the 200 day on my short. So we'll see. It'll need some help from the market in order to get there, and the market's still a question mark, right? We were just talking about that really quickly before NVIDIA hit, and I don't think that NVIDIA gives us any real resolution for the moment. It may help bring this market back into neutral territory, but it's not enough, obviously, to make it bullish. You really need SPYs above 674 to 680 in order for the market to look bullish again, in my opinion. In my opinion. Sorry, I'm buying some things. Buying back some of that MSTR that I sold into the up move. because us crypto bros, we hodl. You know about the hodl life. Oh, we gotta have some fun. Any questions, anything, guys? I'm pretty beat. I was out way past bedtime last night, but I'm not in a rush to be anywhere either, so. How do I use the 8 and 21 day MA? So first of all, I use EMAs. So I use an 8 and 21 EMA, and I use it on every time frame that I trade. I use it on the daily chart, the 5-minute chart, the 15-minute chart. Every time frame that I look at, I like to have an 8 and 21 EMA. And broadly, I consider the space between the 8 and 21 EMA to be technical equilibrium for any stock or any market that I'm looking at. So if my stock is trading at the 8 EMA, at the 21 EMA, or in between the space between the 8 and 21 EMA, I consider the stock that I'm looking at to be at technical equilibrium. And then if the stock is trading above a rising 8 EMA or below a declining 8 EMA, then that stock will be extended. And there are degrees of extension. In theory, if the 8 EMA was at $90 and the stock was trading at $89.98, I would be looking at a stock that's extended by 2 cents, which means it's not extended at all. It's at equilibrium, right? But that's how I use it. So then you have degrees of extension. So I really just use it as like a measurement tool. How far away are we from the 8 and 21 EMA, from the equilibrium zone for any stock or market that I'm looking at? And at a certain point of extension, you know, like when extension gets really big away from those moving averages and it's multiple days in a row away from those moving averages, then I might look for a counter trend setup for a snapback trade. And if I'm looking for a counter trend setup in a snapback trade, typically what I'm looking for is a move back to equilibrium. So actually, you know, a great example is the IBIT ETF, the Bitcoin ETF, right? As you guys know, I'm really not a believer in crypto, right? But these things have gotten so destroyed here. I just sold some of that MSTR that I had bought back. These things have gotten so destroyed here that the extension to the downside is getting really extreme. I mean, Bitcoin is like 1, 2, 3, 4. I guess technically yesterday was a green day, so it should reset the account, the count. But really, this thing has been getting clobbered for like 5 days straight with one little mini pause, and now it's trading at $51 with the 8 EMA at 54.40 and the 21 EMA at 58. It's also sometimes important to note the spread between the 8 and 21 EMA. It widens when you get these big moves. So a lot of the times when you have that extreme extension, you should expect at a certain point that you're going to get a snapback to equilibrium. A market can't really stay heavily extended from that equilibrium zone forever. Eventually either, because these moving averages will move down in IBIT over time. So if IBIT just goes sideways here for the next handful of days, this 8 EMA will catch up to the price action. That's a time correction. It's a bear flag is really what it is. A bear flag is a time correction of extension. A bull flag is a time correction of bullish extension. That's exactly what it is. So eventually this moving average will catch up through time or through price. Through price means that you get a bounce back in it. Or the thing that you got to keep in mind is that something that is extended can always become more extended. So I think that IBIT looks really extended right now with the trading at $51 with the 8 EMA at 54.40. They could sell this down for a couple more days and it could just become even more extended. But when I come in and I put the counter trend setup on, really what I'm looking for from a target perspective is just the snapback to the equilibrium zone. And you know, how greedy I want to be on that depends on how much I believe in it based on other factors. And again, crypto I really don't believe in very much at all. So I am in IBIT and MSTR and BMNR on their downside extension, but I'm not even looking for a move back to the ADMA on the daily. So I'm being extremely conservative, and I'm relatively small on those trades. Your follow-up question here, just give me 1 second because I just got filled on a few names. Your follow-up question, okay, so what are degrees of extension? How do you know when to take the trade? And that's a great question. So you hear me talk generally about the market, the SPYs and the Qs. We talked about this a lot in yesterday's afternoon meeting, where I do specifically for the indexes have these measurements where I consider things to be not extended at all, even if it's technically extended, but not extended to be meaningful, moderately extended, or extremely extended. So traditionally what we've used is if the SPYs are less than $5 away from the ADMA, so right now the SPY is trading at, let's just call it 666, the ADMA at 670, you have $4 of downside extension from the SPYs. As far as I'm concerned, it's less than $5. It's not extended enough at all to ever be considering a counter trend trade where you would just buy the SPYs now. There's no extension there. And if anything, the closer this gets to equilibrium, the more I would begin to like the short again in it, because especially if it was downtrending better, which it's not. If it was between $5 and $10 of extension from the SPYs, which is where we were this morning at the open, that's the area that I consider to be no man's land. I've got too much extension to want to push the short, because if it snaps back to equilibrium, I'm going to be in trouble, which it easily could do. But it's not extended enough for me to consider the counter trend trade, because it easily could become more extended, very easily. Traditionally it's at $10 plus away from the ADMA and the SPYs or Qs, where I would begin to consider the extension to be a little bit more extreme, where I would begin to look the other way. And honestly, just because the SPYs and Qs have gotten to be so much more expensive now than they used to be, you really should probably be thinking $15 now and not $10. So, $15 away from the ADMA and the SPYs and the Qs is when I really want to consider going the other way. And that's the SPYs and the Qs. If you try to break these principles down to individual stocks, it becomes a lot more difficult, because you need to really know the profile of the stock that you're trading. You need to understand the beta and the momentum profile of the stock that you're trading. For example, typically speaking, it's much easier for an RGTI, a meme stock, a momentum stock, to have very large degrees of extension than it ever would be for Procter & Gamble or Unilever, these names that are, consumer staples, very boring, Coca-Cola. You tend to, not really see large dollars worth of extension in these names ever, because they're slow and boring. So, 2% of extension away from the ADMA on the daily, 2% is a bad number. Let's say 5% of extension away from the ADMA on the daily chart of Coca-Cola is very different than 5% of extension away from the ADMA in a Bitcoin name or in a quantum name. The stocks have very different profiles in terms of how they move, what the momentum is, and what the beta is. So I don't have rules or guidelines in place for every stock, but what we do is recognize when things give really big moves in short periods of time. When you get 3, 4, 5, 6 days in a row of very large moves all in the same direction, recognize that is beginning to create a level of extension that is not going to be able to last forever, and then begin to say, all right, what are the conditions in which I would look to go the other way on this trade? And usually what we want to do is wait for the pivot high or the pivot low to be able to come in and come in the other way. So instead of with this RGTI that I have on, instead of just seeing this at $40 and being like, wow, it's day 3 to the upside, it's getting really extended, it's trading at $40 and the ADMA is at $34.70, I'm going to come in and short. Instead of doing that, we look for like the RDR at that point. So that way, if you get, you know, another big day higher or another big day higher, you're not short. You're not getting hurt because the thing is moving higher. You're not shorting on the way up. You're shorting on the way down is really what you're looking to do. And you're shorting on the way down, you can be short versus a level, and you can recognize, all right, I just caught this really big move just occurred. It's really extended. I'm looking to fade the extension, go the other way of the extension, and I'm going to execute it when it's moving back down in this example versus whatever that previous high is, and then that can give me the, you know, the appropriate risk reward. So that's how that trade works. So I hope that helps. IBIT has $3 of extension from the ADMA. Would you consider that to be big extension? Yes. I would consider this IBIT to be, you know, very extended. I mean, one thing that you could do if you wanted to is you could take a look at IBIT's trading over the course of the last year, and you could look at, you know, some of the points where it's clearly had the biggest moves and just how far away it was from the ADMA on that point to have a general idea of what the largest amounts of extension that you typically have seen over the course of the last year in this stock look like. It's not a perfect way to do things because this could be the outlier that becomes even bigger, but you can just go back and look and see, you know, after this thing has, you know, become $3, let's assume that your number is correct, every time historically over the course of the last year, this thing has not really been able to extend by more than $3 from the ADMA by very much before you kind of get the snapback. And then you kind of have a general idea, I think, for that stock and recognize that each circumstance is a little bit unique. So that's one thing that you could kind of do as well. But you still want to, I think, wait for the signal, and even though it's a counter trend trade, you want to be buying it or selling it in the direction that it's moving. Like when I executed Bitcoin today, I already know that it's very extended to the downside. It's like five days down in a row. But then I saw here at the end of the day, this 5-minute chart, the downtrend of this 5-minute chart beginning to break higher, right? So, you know, saw this kind of coming in, breaking this downtrend on the intraday, and understanding what it looks like on the daily chart in conjunction with this 5-minute chart to actually come in and buy it. And that's similar but different to, if you remember, I think it was yesterday when I did not like the idea of shorting this like bear flag H pattern in the market just yesterday. It was because there was so much extension to the downside on the daily chart. So it's the same. Like this is how I use the 8 and 21 EMA. I use it to help me understand these measures of extension here, and you know, that's how we do it. So I hope that helps. How did I just get? Let me just do something really quick. Sorry, one more second. Okay. Cool. Something that covers Vincent's question. Over to the YouTube. Any thoughts on the spike in the Japan interest rates leading to a carry trade unwind? I don't have strong thoughts on it because it's really not an area of expertise for me at all. But my weaker thoughts on it are, one, is just generally speaking the impact of what's happening with the dollar. The dollar strength, I think, is a big negative for the stock market and for crypto. But it hasn't. I've been surprised by how little actually this move higher in the UUP since the September low has impacted the stock market. Really surprised, actually. But I think that this is one of the things that's having a big impact on crypto. It just hasn't really been able to break over to the stock market. And honestly, another thing while I'm just talking about that I'm surprised about is that crypto itself hasn't bled more into the stock market also. Just again, the margin calls that are clearly happening in crypto, I would think would lead to some selling in the equity market just to be able to raise cash, and that has not played out yet. So the market, I think, overall has held in really well considering both the dollar and the crypto move. So that's thought number one. And just general thought number two is, if you're thinking about, and I could certainly be wrong, like I said, this is not my area of expertise, but if you were thinking about the, trying to think of what the right word is, if you're thinking about like shocks happening in the carry trade leading to a August 2024 event, I don't think that's going to happen. I think that the August 2024 event is still too recent, where I think that the players who got super burned on that move back then are better positioned and better hedged, where we don't get a repeat of that to the same degree. That's not to say that it can't have an impact. I think that the impact is felt primarily through, again, the strengthening dollar, and that in and of itself should have some degree of an impact. I just sold some MP and some MSTR up again. I sold some BMNR, making some after hours highs here. Wow, guess my targets were too shallow. I'm not going to be a crypto bro for long at this point. Cool, so I hope that helps, Alan. That's really all I got for you. David Dean in the YouTube is love. Dunking on crypto? I'm not dunking on crypto. I'm a crypto bro. I'm long. Oh man, too funny. What's NVIDIA doing? Still in that same area. Trading around 194. Still around the same thing. All right, guys. Anybody else have anything? Otherwise, I'll wrap it up. All right. Have a good night, everybody. I will see you all tomorrow.